Q&A. Like,
Okay.
I would like everyone to introduce themselves just like you would if you were starting a class, or even if you were at, say, Quilt Market or something, and we're all in the lobby, and I'm like, oh, that girl with the pink hair, I know her. I'm going to go say hi right now.
Gotcha.
And then go from there. If you would, talk about what you're doing online or even what your goals are, right? Because this will be out there for a while. And if you're offering stuff online right now, go ahead and talk about that. And then we're going to ask you questions because we're all here to learn too, right? That's what we
Sounds
did
good.
yesterday. Sheri and Carole and I, we bounced around a lot of things, and it was very, very valuable to all of
Trial
us.
by fire.
So, Carole, here we go. You are up.
Hi, I'm Carole Lyles Shaw, and I am a modern quilter. I design patterns and I teach workshops, both face-to-face and now, of course, live and on-demand online. I work with lots of guilds, and although I'm a modern quilter, most of the guilds that hire me are traditional guilds that are curious about what is this modern quilting thing. And I love those kinds of audiences because it just opens up a whole set of possibilities for them.
That is awesome. You've been using online teaching now for a while, haven't you?
Yes, my first class launched a few weeks ago, and it filled very quickly, much to my delight and surprise. It's an on-demand class, and I also run Zoom sessions for the students so that we can have some Q&A, face-to-face time, and they can interact live and real-time with each other. And upcoming, I have guilds that, of course, had to cancel their face-to-face events, and we are now scheduling both trunk show, lecture trunk shows about modern quilting, and also day-long classes live for small groups of their members. So it's going to be like, being there, except we're almost not there. So I'm looking forward to that.
So Carole, when you were talking about your studio yesterday, you said something that was interesting to me. You set your iPad up on a stand and you backed it way up away from your design wall. Can you tell me?
Yeah, sure. Like most teachers, we have to use multiple devices when you're either lecturing and you want to show something real, not a slide, and definitely you need multiple devices when you're teaching. We need to be able to show ourselves like we are here and talk to students, answer questions, and so forth. But then when I want to show them a demonstration, I'm cutting or I'm at the sewing machine, I need a separate camera that I can angle down to give them a good view of either my cutting mat or me at the sewing machine. For me, it's mostly at the cutting mat. And that way it's a good view. It's straight down, parallel to the table, and well lit so that people can see up close what my hand and rotary cutter, what my hands and rotary cutter are doing. So yeah, we're all getting very techie. We're becoming our own roadies because we're quilting rock stars, right, ladies?
You are. That is it, exactly.
So yeah, the technology is important.
So I have one more question, then I'm gonna let everybody else ask you a bunch of questions. How's that sound?
Okay.
All right. I am trying to imagine showing how I sew something as an example. Now I've recorded lots of video and I've edited it. The sewing machine is so loud. Like, how do you deal with the sound?
Sure. Well, first of all, you can mute your own devices while you're sewing if you want to.
Right.
The other option is that you can on some platforms, you can actually show a pre-recorded video. If I wanted to show a sewing video, and that's what, because you can embed it sometimes in your PowerPoint slide, or there are some other platforms you can use in addition to Zoom if you want to get that techie, and show that video. Also, I usually have a tech virtual assistant with me, and so she could have the video on her machine and we could show it live through her machine. We just switch the hosting to her.
Okay.
So there are lots of workarounds for that noisy machine, because you're right, either you have to mute everything for a minute or two, and people don't want to see us sewing for more than 60 seconds, if that long.
That's exactly my problem too. When I make a video, I'm just like sewing away, and when I go to edit it, I'm thinking, who on earth is going to sit through this? Like, not going to happen.
Absolutely.
So, anybody else? Questions for Carole?
Carole, can you explain exactly what you mean by an on-demand class?
Oh, sure. And think of Netflix. There are wonderful hosting platforms called, like CourseCraft and Kajabi, Teachable, etc. There are a bunch of them now. And as a teacher, what you can do is you can pre-record your tutorials and, any short lectures that might go along with that class. You preload them onto that site, and then students register for that class, and they can watch those videos at their own pace, on their own time. Now, one of the other things I've done with the live classes that are upcoming is I've recorded a couple of videos to help them with fabric selection, and a couple notes about the pre-work. But I've done it as a video rather than just written directions, which we know how people read, because I don't read everything. So they can watch those on my course site before we come into the live workshop, so they're ready to sew when they get there. And I'm sure some of you are thinking about things like that too, how to make that time together, the live class, really productive. So I'd like to hear from somebody else now.
All right. Well, I think we're going to spotlight Sheri. She, I think, has some experience at this as well, and IT husband too. Let's get him in here.
I do have an IT husband, which comes in handy. So my name is Sheri Cifaldi-Morrill. My business name is Full Circle Studio, and I live just outside New Haven, Connecticut, so halfway between New York and Boston. I'm a designer, a professional quilter. I'm also an independent pattern publisher, and I teach. I've been teaching in person, but also online for many years. And so I've taught both live classes, like what we're doing. Well, I guess people are watching the recording, but we're live now. But also what Carole had mentioned, those on-demand classes I've done on my own, and also through Missouri Star Quilt Company. So I have been shifting a little bit. While I have been doing online classes, just with this pandemic, I've been accommodating guilds that I was booked with, for those who are ready to make the leap or enthusiastic about making the leap into live virtual. Have been planning for doing my presentation trunk shows, which I have two. One is more inspirational and sort of process oriented. The other one is one that I do in association with Aurifil, called Aurifilosophy, which is a whole thread education program. And then in addition, I do teach half-day and full-day workshops. Different techniques. Some are machine piecing, hand piecing, planning, quilting. You're making your quilt plan, now that we all have lots of quilt tops that we've been working on in quarantine, and also walking foot quilting is my specialty.
Wow, that's a lot.
Well, I don't do it all at the same time.
Oh my goodness. I'm still sitting here trying to absorb it all. How long have you been doing online classes?
So I've been dabbling on and off over the last year, but to be quite honest, really accelerated that over the last 3 months. I started very close, right? So I think, we went down in lockdown here in Connecticut the second week of March. So relatively early in the whole pandemic. I had just come back from QuiltCon, teaching in person for 4 days. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have a little bit of a break, and then everything kind of exploded. So really early on, like about a week into the pandemic, I was hearing from my not followers, I don't know, not followers, but my customers and the people that I teach, and I think we were all feeling a little bit, well, we're still feeling unsettled, but really feeling like we were missing that connection. We were all cooped up. We were all trying to process things. So I decided and put it together fairly quickly, a live online class, a workshop. It went for 3 weeks. We met twice a week. And so that was not for specifically for a guild or a shop, but just the general quilting public could sign up for that. And I put it up, and within 2 days, like I was just telling Carole and Marguerita last night, I was a little nervous, to be quite honest. It was the first time I did anything on that sort of scale live. And I was a little, kind of getting my footing with how many people could be in the class, and learning sort of about, this is really behind the scenes, but I'm being honest, how many people I could accommodate and really give that one-on-one support to. And so there were over 100 people in that class that signed up within 2 days. And it went exceptionally well. It could not have gone better. I definitely learned things and was able to improve along the way. But everyone had a really great time. But I think, while we're talking about any class, why do people want to take a class, whether it's in person or live? In person or online? I think, we want quilters, we want to learn something, but we also want to feel connected. And that was the biggest thing that I got out of that live. That was one of the things I was concerned about, was I wanted people to feel connected. That was one of the main reasons why I was offering it. And in that box, in most boxes, in all the boxes, it really exceeded my expectations, but that especially in those really early days when we were all not sure what things meant, how we were all processing things, but people really were able to come together and feel, and I got lots of emails afterwards thanking me, and people just felt more connected, just even through an online class. So I think that's one of the huge benefits that people should be thinking about.
You said something.
I don't know if I answered your question. That was a lot of information.
You said a couple more things, so I got to say I'm astounded at the numbers. But you mentioned yesterday something that I learned when I started teaching in a quilt shop a very long time ago, and that was, once you start a class, you develop or find or connect with people in such a way that they keep taking your classes. They might not need to learn that skill, or it wasn't on their agenda to learn it, but they had fun and they met other quilters. They enjoyed what you were doing and being there as part of your class, and they wanted to sign up for the next one. And they were asking you, well, where's the next class?
Yeah. And I'm actually launching my third series tomorrow. Because I took a couple of week break to kind of regroup, and I think the same. I think a lot of the reasons why people take an online class is a lot of the reasons why they take an in-person class. Clearly, they want to learn something. Most people, although I think we've all taught classes or been in classes with people where you kind of look at them and you're like, well, why are you here? You know how to do, or you know how to do most of this. I mean, clearly we all have a way to teach, and we all have little tips and tricks, and sometimes, it's the little things. Even when I take classes, I walk away and like, oh, that was totally worth it, that one tip. But the other huge reason why is we need to be around other people. We want to be around other people. We want that community. And I think now more than ever, I think that's one of the real benefits for us to keep, one of the ways we can all keep connected to our quilting community, and even guilds within one another, taking that, well, yes, it would be great for us to be in the same room, but we can still see each other, and the guilds members can see each other and talk to each other and have those conversations while they're working too.
I think that's great. And that, I really appreciate you sharing that yesterday. That really made things even more interesting and personable to me to make that association, because I tend to think of online classes as just, who are these people and where are they coming from? And yet you made yourself a real community there, just like you would if you were teaching at your local quilt shop.
Yeah, I mean, that was a group that didn't know. No, I don't think anyone knew each other ahead of time. But it was really exciting that they got to introduce themselves. And most of the people were in the US, but some were from in England. And there was one person from Italy. And there was some serious things going on in Italy at they still are, but at the very beginning of it. And people can connect and can talk to one another and chat. And yeah, I think, like I said, there's definitely a lot of benefits for meeting in person, but I do think, people who are kind of skeptical or like, oh, I don't know how that's going to work, I would invite them to give it a try, because I think that they'll be surprised that, you can make connections being, through the online classes and online interactions too.
Yeah, very much so.
If
Thank
I
you.
can interject a funny story that has to do with the connections in the classes. I actually taught one of my classes that only had 9 people in it, which was the smallest one I've done. 3 of them, nobody knew each other. 3 of them had South Dakota roots. And it was so random, all were loving it. They were chatting it up and being like, oh, let's have lunch next time you come through. And one of them asked for somebody's number. I'm like, I guess we're all getting Joan's number. I mean, but it is absolutely, the connection is what they're missing. And it's amazing how much they do connect when you're busy teaching as well.
I mean, I always, even when I teach in person in guilds in person, sometimes even, especially larger guilds, you could be sitting next to someone and not know them, or even know that they live in the town. I'm sure you've everyone here teaches. It's amazing how people, they're like, oh, you live there? I live like right down the street. It happens like constantly. So again, I think kind of treating being online can seem a little bit more impersonal, but I think there are when done the right way, I think there really are good, strong connections that can be made, and there's a real value.
Very much so. Thank you. Anybody else questions? This is really awesome.
Well, I've been admiring the colorful quilt behind you.
Oh, thank you.
Is that one of your quilts?
It is. So this is Picnic Petals. It is one of my patterns. It is a modern interpretation of a very traditional block called the Flower and Snowball. And that is actually one of the classes I teach to guilds as well, to anyone, is taking the anxiety out of piecing curves. This is sort of a nice gentle curve, and it's actually one of my most popular classes, and anyone, and I bet money on it, anyone can piece a curve. It just takes patience, a little bit of patience and practice. So thank you for asking about that. I didn't even pay you money to ask about that.
Well, I wanted to participate. I couldn't help it. It had pink in it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Tammy, I think it's your turn. Let me
Awesome.
see. I got to find the list here. Be patient with me for just a sec. Here we go. Thanks, Sheri. That was just wonderful. Hi there.
Hi, I'm Tammy Silvers of Tamarini's, and I am a pattern designer. I design fabric for Island Batik. Like Sheri, I'm an aura philosopher and have really enjoyed sharing the education of thread with people. It's a lot of fun. Relatively new to online teaching. When all of this went down, I tended to go more cautious, and I did a few Facebook Live classes. Had a great time. That was wonderful. So I taught for Gamble for their virtual quilt show. That was great. And my next adventure is going to be teaching a virtual retreat. So Ebony Love has started a virtual retreat line, and I'm part of her inaugural teaching crew, and we're going to be doing a 3-day virtual retreat in June. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Wow.
I'll be there.
Oh, how neat. So this retreat has multiple teachers then?
Yes. So I guess it's kind of a mashup between a retreat and if you went to a show where you could take multiple classes. So we're offering them, let's see, there's going to be Ebony Love, Jackie Kunkel, Joanne Hillestad, and Kate Colleran, and then myself. And we're each going to be offering mini classes. So the folks, when they enroll, have access to all of those sessions and can take them. We're going to have, just like in a retreat, we're going to have activities. And so it really does follow along that format that you see at a retreat. They can choose to do a swap with each other. I think Ebony has done a great job in laying it out. So I'm very excited to be doing that.
That sounds fascinating. Who did I hear chime up saying I'll be there? Carole.
Oh, Carole.
Yeah. And one of my guild.
Now I feel pressure.
No, I'm there to learn from you, Tammy.
Oh dear.
And I got one of my guild mates to sign up for it too.
Yay, that is awesome. I am excited about, this is one of the things, I don't know about y'all, but I think this pandemic really, for me, teaching virtually, teaching online was way down the pike. It was on the list. I have zero problem being in front of the camera. Not saying I look like how I look in front of the camera or how I sound, because I think I sound like Minnie Mouse, but it doesn't bother me. I enjoy sharing. I am truly passionate about quilting and enjoy sharing that with folks and entertaining them and connecting with them. So I love that part of it. But this really, like Sheri, spurred me to at least start trying something. And that was, I tried, like I said, Facebook Lives on my own. And now, Sheri, I didn't have hundreds of people sign up for mine, but I was thrilled with the folks that did. We had a great time, have really made some great connections. And I don't know about y'all, but I get super excited when somebody shares their finished project.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this class in April, they've already posted the finished quilt. That is a win in my book, right? Win. And she loves it. And I was like, that's awesome. So, yes. So I think it is nice to know that for our industry and as teachers, we can continue what we were doing before face-to-face, that we can continue connecting with folks and hoping that guilds are going to say, hey, you know, I think an online option is a terrific option because it gives us flexibility. And I don't know about y'all, but I like the flexibility of not having to worry about, can I be in Arizona one day and New York the next? Well, no, I can't. But virtually, why, yes, I can.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. True.
Where are you located?
I'm in Georgia. I don't have an accent, so I know it was tough.
I picked up on y'all.
I was guessing Tennessee, but okay, I'll take it.
It's all right. Yeah.
Too cool. Any more questions for Tammy? Everybody? Okay, let's see. Cindy. I will find Cindy. Thanks, Tammy. That was wonderful.
Hi, I'm Cindy Grisdela. I'm an artist, a teacher. I'm the author of Artful Improv, which is my book about improvisational design, color, and making your own quilts without a pattern. So basically, I teach and lecture on improv design, and I love teaching. It's so much fun to get out and connect with people. I hadn't done anything online until 2 months ago, and one of my guilds that I was scheduled to do an in-person event at contacted me and said they were in upstate New York. I'm in Reston, Virginia, outside Washington, D.C. And they said, you know, we can't meet. Would you be interested and available to do your lecture and your workshop online? And I said, oh, sure, no problem. and So then I had to go on a crash course to actually learn how to do what I'd said I could do. And I told them, that I hadn't done it before, but I was willing to put in the time and the effort to come up with a product that they would be happy with. And so I did do I have 4 lectures, one on color, one on improv design, one on free motion quilting, and one on sort of an inspirational journey of an art quilter type of a lecture. They're all PowerPoints, and so I was able to do a Zoom presentation for this guild, where I showed my PowerPoint presentation and took questions and answers at the end, just like I would, just like I would in person. And there were quite a few benefits to doing it that way. One big benefit for me was, and also for the members who were listening to the lecture, was that everyone was on their own computer, so they could really see the slides and the detail. Sometimes when you're in a space, a basement or church basement or someplace where they don't have a screen and you're projecting onto a wall, sometimes the details get muddy. And that's, I do a lot of, sort of intense free motion quilting that I like to show people. And so for the group, I got lots of comments that, wow, this is really great because we can actually see the detail. And then the next day I did a workshop on my my improv quilts, like I have behind me here. And I researched a whole bunch of different ways to do it, and I ended up heading on a sort of a hybrid approach. So I designed the class in coursecraft.net, and I filmed my videos, and I wrote text and still photos, because people learn, differently. Some people like to watch videos, some people, would rather just read about it. So I gave them 3 ways to learn. And I gave the link to the program director about 24 hours ahead of time, so that people could be sure they could join and access the content. And then I taught the class, and then I scheduled a Zoom meeting for the class on the day that we had been scheduled to start. And I introduced the class, I introduced myself, I answered questions, I talked to them about choosing fabrics, and people could show me their fabric choices. And the really great thing about doing all this online is that, okay, so somebody pulled fabrics and they ended up, after they talked to me, they weren't as happy with them. They just had their fabrics right there. They could go and make substitutions. They could, sitting in their own studios, using their own sewing machines, their own comfy chairs. It was really great. And so I had 20 students, and I was able to see them, and they could see me, and they could show me, what they were working on. And so that worked out pretty well. And then they went away and they could work through the course platform at their own pace. I also set up a private Facebook group that people could share their work. And this group in particular used that a lot. They did in-process photos, and people commented. There was a lot of, it was a guild where they knew each other. So there was a lot of community going on, which was really exciting. And then a day or so later, I scheduled another Zoom meeting so that they could show me their progress, and I could give feedback to each one. I didn't require people to show their work if they weren't comfortable, but but I did give feedback for the group, and they really liked it. I got a lot of comments and emails that that people were really happy with it. And they too this happened about the 3rd week of April, and some of those ladies have finished more than one quilt.
Wow.
So they really kind of got into it. And so then I decided that that class, I call it my improv puzzle class. It's a very popular class. I have it scheduled with a number of guilds. I didn't feel right, just offering it generally. So I have that class available that I offer to guilds and groups. And then I did another class that's called an Intro to Improv, where I also on CourseCraft, and I did a lesson on how to choose your fabrics, lessons on using 3 different improvisational techniques to create this quilt. I did go through and create the quilt, showed them how to put it together and everything. So those quilts are ending up to be a little bit more similar than most of the classes that I teach, because they were walking through pretty much the same steps. But I introduced it last week. I opened it up and I got 100 people signing up in 48 hours.
Wow.
So they can work through at their own pace. They can upload photos into the platform. I don't have a live option with that. I priced the class very reasonably so that people could say, okay, I'll give this a shot. It's not a huge investment. I also set up a private Facebook group for that class that people have taken advantage of. I'm available to answer emails if people have problems. So it's been a really fulfilling, rewarding experience for me, and for the students who have contacted me, they've been really happy with it. So I think I'm trying to pick a silver lining here. This is something that I've wanted to do, and I just never had time because I was traveling so much. And now I have time, and I did it, and people seem to be really happy with it. So I'm offering it as an option to the guilds that I have still outstanding. Some of the people that I've offered it to have been a little hesitant, but I think this is going to last longer than we think it might. And so it's good to have that option. It's up on my I have a link on my website that people can access it. It's they access the whole class at once. I don't do it in I decided that it would just easier for me just to offer it and have people do it at their own pace than to offer 2 lessons one week and then 2 more. So I think there's lots of different ways to do this, and I think it's I'm really excited about the possibilities.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So are you pleased with CourseCraft? I know Carole has thrown out a couple of different platforms she's explored.
I really like it.
Okay.
It's very straightforward as a teacher to upload the material. It's a small company. It's just I think it's just a few people. It's not supported by a big commercial enterprise, but they've been very responsive and receptive to questions, tech help, things like that. I'm not real. I don't have a tech husband. I'm not really tech savvy myself. I mean, I can learn things, but I don't know a lot about it. And so it was really good for me to have that availability to say, hey, this doesn't work. Can you help me? And they were really wonderful. And my students have found it, I think, accessible and easy to follow. So.
Nice, very nice.
Also not very expensive.
Oh, okay. Well, that helps too.
You have to pay. I think I pay $30 a month. They have a free option, but if you want to do more than a couple of videos, then you sort of blow through that free option. The one negative about it, from some perspectives, is that CourseCraft doesn't do any marketing for you. They're just the platform that hosts your material, and so you have to do all your own marketing. But I'm the best person to market my own class, so I don't that doesn't really matter to me. I don't want to pay extra for that. So
right.
And I just publicized it on my email newsletter, on my blog, on my social media channels, and people were really excited. I think someone else said people are sort of hungry for the opportunity to do something creative at this time, and as teachers, if we are active and out there, they still want to take classes with us, and so I'm really happy to be able to offer that opportunity.
Nice. And it looks like you've got a nice working studio that you've set up for yourself.
We downsized a few years ago when the kids left home, and I ended up with a smaller house but a bigger studio, which for me is a win.
Yeah. Very nice. Anybody else questions for Cindy? No? Thanks. That was really nice, really helpful information. I really appreciate it. And so, Janice, I want to bring you into the spotlight.
All
Where are
right.
you? Here we go. Hang on one sec. There we are.
All right. Hello, I'm Janice Frisch. My business is called Tangible Culture, and you can find me at tangibleculturellc.com and also Tangible Culture on Facebook and Instagram. And I am a quilt historian. I've been researching quilts for over 20 years, but I also quilt myself. Also been quilting for over 20 years. And I do lectures on, oops, sorry. I don't know if that blipped out. Try that again. I do lectures on quilt history. Specifically, I helped write this big book from the International Quilt Museum. I wrote the chapter on piece quilts. So what I look at is early influences in American quilting and colonial American quilting, specifically from Europe. And I give a lecture called The Development of the Block Style Quilt, which looks at the elements of quilt block design that we got from Europe here in the United States, and then looks at how the block style quilt developed out of the medallion style quilt that was really popular in Europe in the 1700s and 1800s. So quilting in America is inspired by global cultures, and I really enjoy finding out what elements come to us from different countries and different parts of the world. And I really like to see how that crosses cultural boundaries and morphs into different things on both sides of those cultural boundaries. So that's really fun, and that all my lectures are illustrated, so they lend themselves really well to moving online to digital. And as has been mentioned previously, they work especially well because they're illustrated with high quality photos from museum collections in Europe and in the United States, and pieces that I've seen in person. So I can tell you lots of details about it, and I have really good detail photos to include. And you can't really see those easily at a guild lecture. Sometimes the screen's too small, sometimes you're projecting on a brick wall. So when you're sitting at home in your own computer looking, you can see all the details on really gorgeous pieces and really get a sense of what elements I'm talking about much better than you can in person. So I do the lecture on the history of the block style quilt. I also do a lecture that looks at how people have historically signed their quilts, because I'm a big advocate for labeling your artwork and documenting your artwork. Because when you've looked at a lot of women's pieces and textiles in museums the way I have, you quickly learn that a lot of things, the stories and the names are lost. And even when you do know the names and sometimes the location where something came from, you still can't find out exactly who it was that made it. So we look at examples of how quilts were signed in the past and what we do and don't know about those makers based on what information came with the piece, what family lore was passed down. And then I use that to also look at what's best practices for signing your quilts today, as well as different methods for signing your quilts. Because I know sometimes people are just, I don't know how to do it. It takes a lot of time. So I've got lots of quick and easy tricks for you to get that information down and recorded. And you'll be pretty inspired once you learn what we can and can't find out from historic things. So I'm also working on, I make custom memory quilts. So I'm working on some one-on-one and small group online teaching options, so I can help you work from home to clear out some of your drawers from some of those t-shirts or special clothing items you've been saving, and help you actually get past the fear of working with scary things like stretchy knits and get those put together into a quilt, clear your drawers out a little bit, get those memories out where you can see them again. So those are what I'm working on.
Pretty cool. And are you using any different platform than Zoom for your presentations right now?
It's all Zoom at the moment, yeah.
Okay.
So
and is it working?
your screen very easily, so people can quickly see the photos in the PowerPoint. My local guild's actually using Zoom to meet as well, and they're doing a really neat thing that I think guilds, when they're bringing in a speaker and they're using Zoom, you can also use it for your actual meeting, and your guild can interact really nicely. So our guild had everyone send in photos of things they'd been working on previously, and they put that together into their own little PowerPoint, and then we're able to mute and unmute members so that they could each talk about what they had made for a little bit, just like show and tell in a regular guild. Plus we could see them better because they were right up on the screen. So.
And how long has your guild been doing that for, did you say?
They just did that. So we had a canceled meetings, and then they decided to start using Zoom. So they had the nice business meeting up front, and then they had show and tell using the photos going through and just calling each other. They went alphabetically, so everybody got a turn. And it was easy for them to sort out whose turn it was. And then you could easily add on a program at the end of that, just like you do in person, and people got to see each other and hear each other. And it was really, that connection piece really came through very nicely.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for sharing the information about your own guild doing that too. That's pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
So anybody want to, besides me, quiz Janice?
I have a basic question. I just like to know where people are located.
Oh, sure. I'm currently located in Southern Indiana. When times are good, I go frequently into Ohio because that's where my family's located.
Nice.
Cool. Everybody else want to do a quick, where am I?
I'm in Sarasota near Tampa, Florida.
And that's Carole.
That's Carole, sorry.
That's all right.
Sure. This is Sheri. I'm from just outside New Haven, Connecticut, right along the shore.
And Tammy was in Georgia. Is that right?
That's right. I'm in North Georgia.
Cindy,
I'm
Virginia?
in Virginia. Yep, outside Washington, D.C.
And we're coming up with Beth next on the spotlight. Michelle, where are you?
I'm in Maryland.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Beth.
Hi. I'm wondering when the little line, oh, there it goes. I didn't want that big block on my face. Okay. All right. So hi, I'm Beth Helfter. My company is called Eva Paige Quilt Designs, named after my older two daughters who are 17. And I also have a 13-year-old daughter named Greta who gets zero play in this whole business name and all that. And that's okay with her. She does have a pattern named after her though. And I'm in Pepperell, Massachusetts, which is right on the border of New Hampshire. My husband refers to us as being in Baja, New Hampshire, which I think is kind of funny. But anyway, that's where I am. And I have been quilting for 25 years and designing for about probably about 20, but I started my business 15 years ago. So I started out kind of as a applique on pieced background sort of girl, and quickly decided that that was just a little too fussy for me because I'm not very perfectionist oriented. In fact, I give a lecture called Perfection is Overrated because it is. And I just kind of went from there, and now I'm very scrappy. I was on the Quiltmaker Scrap Squad in 2014, which was when we got to take a design from the magazine and redo it all in scraps each month, which was pretty cool because a lot of times in the magazines, you've got a lovely design, but it only has 6 or 7 fabrics in it. And we were able to take it and redo in scraps. And that really just got me going in the scrap department. And now that's pretty much what I'm known for is my scraps. I'm also known for inventing the accordion sewn half square triangles. That's what this is. if this is a little too small, I can't really wear it as a bra, but sometimes you can when they're wider. Accordion sewn half square triangle technique. On the back, there's all your half square triangles. I invented it so that I could get more than just matchy half square triangles. Like when you make them traditionally, you're going to end up with two that are exactly the same. And the way my brain works, if I see a half square triangle quilt, I start trying to play the matching game, and I don't want to win the matching game. I don't want them to be the same. So I figured out a way that I could get two half square triangles that don't necessarily match each other. And the cooler part that I discovered is you can see that I put this one together kind of like deliberately. It looks like I put it in an order because I did. If I were to cut this apart, I would be able to create a block from it, and everything would be where it exactly needs to be when you lay it out. So that's what I've been teaching. I wrote a book 2 years ago, and I actually just sent my second one to the proofreader last week. I'm so excited. So I self-published these books, and they're both on the accordion sewn method. So I have been teaching in person for about 10 years. And when this all happened, I mean, I was just devastated because I love teaching in person. I don't just love the teaching, I love the getting out of the house. I have 3 teenage girls, and the idea of not being able to get out and be with the people anymore was just a little much for me. So I kind of went into my shell for like 2.5 weeks, and then I was like, all right, I got to figure something out here. So I do teach a class, a 3-hour intro to accordion sewn half square triangles. And so I was like, if I'm going to start trying to teach online, that's the one I'm going to start with, because I thought it would be an easy one to adapt to the Zoom format. And so I just kind of put it out there. Here's what I'm doing. Here's the link, sign up, pay, whatever. And I limited it to 20 people, and it filled in 10 hours, like boom, done. And so I was like, okay, I guess there's a need for this. And people were, I didn't know any of them. I recognized a couple names, but none of them were like my friends filling it up or anything. And so I went and did it that Friday afternoon, very trepidatiously, very concerned that things were going to go so wrong. And it was probably, quite honestly, probably the best class I've had so far. They were insanely good. Every single one of them knew what they were doing. They went in there, they had watched my videos on YouTube, which they didn't have to do, but they did that. They were sewing like gangbusters. And somebody mentioned how much more comfortable people are in their own room. I think it was Cindy, might have been somebody else, might have been many people, and it's true. Like when you're in your own studio, it's amazing how fast these people sew. They're insane. So I was getting so much done because they just kept going, okay, what's next? What's next? And I do think that's because they just know where everything is, and they're so happy to be sewing in their own chair and their own sewing machine. They didn't have to lug it anywhere. So it really translated well. And so I've done that 5 times now, including for a guild this morning. So I will do that one for guilds. I'm going to be doing my first lecture via Zoom for a guild in a couple weeks. I take a little while to like marinate the ideas, but I resisted doing a lecture because I really like the give and take when I'm in person. And I didn't know how that was going to work if I was on Zoom. So I finally decided, well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have one of my daughters filming me and then one of them running the chat on the Zoom, and when people have questions, she's going to tell me and she's going to read them for me, and then I'm going to be able to answer. So, it's good to have these teenagers around, I guess. But I guess it is. So that's what I'm planning, and I'm hoping that it works out. And so I offer that, and then I just kind of adapted a couple of my other classes to be able to do them on Zoom. I haven't done them yet. I do have one that I was supposed to teach at the Mancuso show this summer in Springfield, Massachusetts, the World Quilt Festival, and they've moved it to an online format. It's a kind of a different online format. Like we're all doing it via Zoom in our own homes, and they're just basically collecting the money and giving us all the information, and we set up the Zoom and everything. So it's going to be very interesting. And but I think it'll be really good. Like they're going to be able to pop in and see how things are going, and people can take multiple classes if they're, willing to sign up for them and everything. So I went to a little Zoom meeting with all those instructors the other day, and that was fun. So, people are getting really creative about how can we do this? And we're all at varying levels of acceptance of this is what we have to do right now, and skill on our tech side and everything. But I'm kind of like Cindy in that if you ask me if I can do something, I sometimes will say sure, having no idea what the heck I'm going to do, but I will figure it out, because we don't really have much of a choice right now. If we want to continue to be in front of people and with people and being able to continue our business, then this is what we have to do. So I've accepted that, and I'm enjoying it to the best of my, I really do want to travel again when this is over, but I'm seeing it as something that I could do at the same time. I don't have to give this up entirely once I could travel again, but I'd like to do a little bit of both, I think, when this is over. So.
Cool. Now, are you setting up online classes on a platform the way Cindy is?
Haven't yet. Now, when I have just done them live on Zoom so far. I have a couple coming up in the beginning of June that are on my website right now to be signed up for, and I'll be running a couple more, for guild-specific ones. And, that way the guild just takes care of everything, and that's great. But I do have that book coming out in the end of June, probably is when it could be in people's hands. And I'm thinking, I already have been asked a couple times by people who've taken my classes, would you consider doing a quilt along? This was really fun. So I feel like there's a way that I can, promote the book and have a quilt along from it at the same time. So I'm figuring that out. I'm thinking it would be bigger for sure than a 20-person class. I've limited to 20 at the moment. So, again, I step my toe in and I just kind of figure it out as I go. So I'm at the point where I have to figure out how and when I would do a quilt along, but it's on my list. Yeah. And like someone else said, this was on my list to figure out stuff, and then we were thrown in and we didn't have much of a choice. So here we are. Doing the best we can. And I have found too that people, we don't know any more than the quilters know. And 2 months ago, how many of us had heard of Zoom? I hadn't. Most quilters hadn't. And I feel like most quilters, every quilter I've come up with so far, so patient with themselves, with each other, with the teacher. We're all learning, and they help each other so much. I'm very honest about the fact that I don't even own a tablet. If you show up in my class using a tablet, I'm not gonna be able to help you because I can't do that. I've never even seen one. But there's always someone else in the class who is on a tablet, can help them find what they're looking for. And, as I'm listening to them, I'm learning a few more tricks. And now I'm sort of able to say, okay, you need to scroll to the right or scroll to the left. And it's not 3 dots, it's a double tap or whatever. But, so I'm learning too. And I'm just hopeful that it's going to continue to go as well as it has. Because, we all do need a bright spot in this pandemic, and we need to be able to connect. And like I said, I've had people in my classes that just start chatting and you have no idea what their connections are, but they find them. We had a woman in one of my classes who had this gorgeous art from Peru behind her, and we got the whole story of where she got that from. It's just, when else are you going to get in somebody else's room in Nebraska, and you're living in Massachusetts? It's pretty great.
It is pretty great. And I want to know, I always loved visiting your website because of your lecture called Give It a Scrap Slap.
Oh, yeah. That's the one that I have that's based on my time on the Scrap Squad. So I show like what we were given as this is what we had to make into scraps, and this is what I did with it. So it's fun.
Are you doing that one or preparing to do that one online?
I could. Nobody's asked me yet, and I'm basically at the moment, like everybody else, I've kind of been taking each contract as it comes, a couple months out, and converting it to a Zoom format. So I just haven't come to a contract yet that was the lecture that they have contracted. But when it comes up, I'm sure I'll do it for them.
Sure.
I don't see why I couldn't.
Awesome. Anybody else questions for Beth?
I have a question.
Sure.
So when you do your classes live, how long do they last?
So
And
far, I've just done 3 hours.
okay, and so when you are when your students are working, are you interacting with people differently? Or what are you doing when they're working?
I love that question, actually, because I was really nervous about that. Like, I didn't want to be like, and so I'm watching, like I didn't know how that was going to go. But actually, it's been really good, because the one class that I've, actually done several times, normally, if I was in the room with the people, I would be using someone's fabric as a demo and stuff. I can't do that. So I've had to prepare my own homework, and I have to use it, so I'm demoing on my own fabric, and I'm going to try to grab some from over here. I'm demoing on my own fabric, and I'm making my own block as we go. Like, this is what we're doing. So every class I've made a block for so far, and I'm going to make myself a COVID quilt. It's going to be great. Hopefully it's not going to be 3 king sizes, but so I've got this 14-inch block every single time. But so while they're sewing, I will finish up whatever, I'll do the demo, but I don't do the whole thing usually. But, so I'll finish that up and I'll quick trim. I've gotten very, very good at quick sewing and quick trimming and stuff. And then behind me is where my design board is. So I have my tripod over here. So I'll move my camera portion over here while they're sewing, and just tell them I'm going to do it. Don't look while I do this if you're going to get sick or whatever. And then I do some demos over here too. So for the most part, it's a pretty fast-paced class, and between me having to sew some and them having questions and, little show and tell here and there, like if it gets boring, I'll just be like, or for me anyway, I don't think they're bored, but if I'm not doing it, they'll be like, hey, Cindy, show me what you're doing, and they will, and everybody looks. So for 3 hours, I have not felt like I couldn't fill the time. Like, sometimes I look and I'm like, I only have 45 minutes. I got to move on, So far it's been okay. Now, when I teach for the Mancuso, I'm going to be doing my Carpenter's Apprentice class, which is 6 hours, and there will be a little more downtime. But I'll figure it out. We figure it out. No trouble.
Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions for Beth? That's awesome. Nice to meet you.
You too.
We've had some great conversations over email.
It's been great.
Michelle, I've got to scroll this down just a little bit. There we are. And let's say hi to Michelle.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Umlauf, and I live in Maryland. My background's just a little bit different. I am a national educator, and I am kind of like a brand ambassador, but I have a tighter relationship with the companies that I work for or I represent. So I represent Baby Lock. I'm a national educator for them, Salke, as well as Clover. And I also do work with Pam Demore, who's known as the Decorating Diva. So I have a sewing background versus a quilting background. So that means I do a little bit of everything. I will teach classes in machine embroidery, serger, regular sewing. Right now I'm working on learning to work with rulers. So it's a little bit of everything, a nice Mod Podge of different type of techniques. So what do I really like doing? I enjoy machine embroidery, but I also like to do any type of embellishment, and particularly with thread. That's my background. I'm not new to online type of classes. I founded Salke's Sewing Online with Salke back in 2015, and that's a webinar series that I hosted up until, I think it was the end of 2018. So even back then, I really saw how there was an opportunity for online type of platform. And I had suggested to Salke that we teach some guild classes that way, but life was totally different back then than it is now. And I'm really kind of excited that things are where they are in a sense, technology-wise, and that it's so much easier than it was back then. So when the pandemic hit, I found myself kind of sitting here thinking, I really like to keep in touch with my followers. So what I did was I started doing Facebook Lives, and I was excited when I learned that I could do Facebook Live from my computer. kind of to back that up a little bit, I'm having a new studio built during this pandemic, which is awesome because I need the space, but temporarily my space shrunk. So I'm really cramped in my room here. But the best thing I did was move my computer next to my sewing machine. So now just today I was doing some sewing and I was watching some videos and I'm like, now I get it. Now I understand why these ladies really enjoy this online type of learning. So once I found out that I could do the lives from my computer, I attempted my first one and nearly made it an epic fail. I had to resort to using my phone to finish it or even start it. But what I learned was that there are some platforms out there that help you present professional quality type of video. So I use multiple cameras. I have a camera set up on my sewing machine. I use my webcam, as well as I have another camera that I might set up on my cutting mat or another machine or the iron or whatever is needed. So that's pretty cool that I can offer that. And one of the features that I like about this platform is that if I'm sewing, for example, the big screen is shown what I'm doing, but I have a smaller picture-in-picture where you can see that I'm still there. So I didn't leave you. So I'm really enjoying that functionality. Maybe the downside to that is it's only available on Facebook Live. I have the ability to broadcast to multiple platforms on social media, to include like YouTube and probably some other ones, which I've never heard of, Twitch or Periscope, but I can do that. So I haven't really ventured into Zoom. I know that that's an option for me. And just to get my feet wet right now, I'm going to stick with what I know and learn that way. So I have attended some guild meetings locally online on Zoom, and it's just really a nice opportunity. Already with all the other ladies here, I already feel a bond with you all. Like I already know a little bit more about you than what I could read on the paper. So I think this is a really great platform, and thank you, Marguerita, for setting this up for us. So yeah, I do just a lot of different things. So some of the classes that I'm prepared to teach will include some that I've taught across the country. So I have an ultimate stabilizer class, which we make a reference book, and this class sells out every single time wherever I teach it across the country, and sharing some tips and tricks with machine embroidery. And I like my classes because they can be kind of they're adaptable. So if your guild is looking for something that might be lecture demo, I can do that. If you're looking for something that you actually make it with me, I can do that with my platform. Talking about threads, that's just another very popular class that people just cannot get enough of that kind of information. And Notion, since I represent Clover, I was in the midst of, let's see, what's the word, like launching a class that I would teach in person about all their different notions, at least the ones that I pick out, like at your cutting station, at your ironing station, at your sewing station, what those type of notions that you need. And I wanted to have something that people could actually hold and test out. Well, now that the pandemic's here, that kind of didn't work out the way that I planned. But thanks to the technology that's available, I feel like I could still kind of pull that off. And it made me think that on Tuesday, which is May 26th, I'm the guest presenter for a change with Salky, and I'm going to be talking about stabilizers. That's a PowerPoint-based type of scenario. And I like the ability of being able to do live video feed like this, because I think it makes you feel a little bit more connected. And with the stabilizers that I'll be talking about, I could actually hold it up. Oh, you can't see the paper, it won't show up. But I could hold the stabilizer up and kind of let you see how you can manipulate it and how it feels. So that I really like that ability about the class. So I started what I call UFO Friday, and that's a Facebook Live. That's kind of like my safe zone. It's kind of like Michelle Unplugged. You can come into my cramped little sewing space right here, see how I am behind the scenes. Since COVID's been around, I haven't been wearing any makeup. You know, it might be lucky if I take a shower that day or something, but you can see what the other side of me that people don't normally get exposed to, that I am human. So that's every Friday at 3:00 p.m. And my website is Sewing Machine Artistry, and that's where I'm found on Facebook. So I also do serger techniques that I offer as a class. And again, I'm doing something for the Northern Virginia chapter of the American Sewing Guild, where they decided they just wanted a lecture demo. So that was very adaptable to them. So that's something else that I do. But I have a plethora of other classes. I have a wall hanging that's done with Bargello, and there's some wallet classes that I teach. Currently, I'm setting myself up because of this, and it was on my bucket list, but because of my travel schedule, I just didn't have the opportunity to work on it, was to set my website up so that I could do e-commerce and have a store there so that people can come to my website and either sign up for a class. I'm looking into how I can sell the products that I promote, because that's a lot of what I do, is kind of like a national educator for these companies. So I think that could be it in about a nutshell.
Nice. Thank you. I love your pink hair. And if you guys have a chance to visit her website, she has the greatest graphic of her with her pink hair, all done up in a nice graphic illustration. It's just gorgeous.
Thank you.
I think you should admit that that's not your studio back there.
I kind of like the girl over my shoulder.
Yeah, she's just quietly working away while you're chatting there.
And she's kind of smiling, you know, and I thought I would say something a little funny, and I'd look at her and she's got a smile on her face.
Yeah.
But they're on a serger.
It's fun to play with all the different backgrounds. Before we started, Michelle was trying to decide whether she wanted to put up a beach scene or not. I thought that would have been a good choice too. But I like the classroom.
I missed the classroom.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take this to off spotlight. I hope it's going to go to gallery view. And is that what everyone else sees now, gallery view?
No.
I think you have to choose it.
Reset it to your to gallery view. Everybody has to do that, I think.
Oh, I see. All right. And here we are, learning, which was really exciting and interesting. And I'm thrilled to hear everyone's story, and more than that, to see all of you in person, because like you said, it's about the connection. I know your names and you know each other's names, and we've emailed and chatted and things like that, and maybe visited each other's pages on Facebook and stuff, but it's so different to just have a sit down and say hi. And so I thank you so much for participating today. I want to share one story that really motivated me to invite you in the first place. I was watching a video put out by Video Maker magazine, and they were talking about how churches have started using Zoom. And I was fascinated and listened carefully, and then I replayed it and listened to it again. And a lot of good takeaways in that interview that they did, but the biggest one for me was this: the churches are seeing an increase of, if they had normally a 30-person attendance, they had 90 in their Zoom. They had people coming to their Zoom church meetings and whatever they were putting out, who had moved away from their town. They came back. And it made me think, because a lot of guilds struggle with membership. How do we bring people? And I just all of a sudden thought, this is it. You know, this is a good way for guilds to reconnect with each other if they're not already using the technology. And I'm really glad to hear all of you who have said that your guild is using the technology. And I hope that if guilds are watching this, that they would consider, not only for the group that they're used to seeing right now, but how about the people who used to come a few years ago, or the people who moved away and want to know what's going on at home now. So I can't thank you all enough. I hope we get to stay in touch and maybe do it again.
Well, thank you for having us. This was great.
Thank you.
It's nice
It was a lot of
meeting
fun.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
This has been
good.
great.
Nice. I
Yeah.
had a great time. Thank you so
Me
much.
too.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.